All
Hey
right.
everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We are recording and we are live on Facebook, and we want to welcome you to Flameless Fireside this beautiful Wednesday night. And yeah, we're glad to have you. We want to remind everybody that we're gonna go ahead and keep our videos off and keep our microphones muted until a later time when we'll let you know when we will invite questions from the audience. And so anyway, welcome. As usual, we're going to just start getting to know our guest and then talk about the topic for the evening. I'm actually going to turn the time over to Celeste just because I know that she knows our guest better than the rest of us and let her be the one to introduce her. So Celeste, go ahead and take it from here.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Yes. So welcome everybody. I'm just going to hurry and quickly introduce our host. So I'm Celeste. I'm from Dallas, and I'm here with Terry Wilson and also with John Brailsford. And our amazing guest tonight is Sherry Braithwaite. And she has got a lot to share with us, and she runs a great private group on Facebook, and it's going to be good. We're going to have a great show. We're going to start out with learning a little bit about her, and then we will move into the topic like John said. If you're new here, again, as John said, keep your audios and videos off. All right. Okay. So we're going to open up with just learning a little bit about you, Sherry. Why don't you just tell us about where you were raised, if you're a convert, just a little bit about your background, just so we can get to know you.
Okay. I was raised in South Jordan. I was born in Payson, Utah, and raised in South Jordan, went to Bingham High School. I've been a member of the church my whole life. I served a mission when I was 22, I served in Detroit, Michigan. I lived in San Diego for 12 years after high school, and I have a daughter who, perfect timing, just entered. It's always perfect timing for her. She makes her debut on my video sometimes. Let's see. I own 3 businesses. One that, I can say a little bit about each of them, but the one that I guess pertains mostly to this group is Dating Olympics, LLC. And I can tell you about that, answer questions, whatever it is. I can explain what it is and why I started it, what it means. But I don't know what else to say about me. I have this group, I have this private Facebook group. It is not just for Latter-day Saint Christians, it's for all Christians. And it has, the people that are in it are middle-aged singles and influencers. So in that group, we have public speakers and life coaches and therapists, and we have a college professor in there and even a filmmaker. Anyway, we just have a bunch of people, kind of compilation of a bunch of influencers, and it's all for the singles. All of the stuff, the reasons that they're in there is to help support us. So,
right.
That's awesome. What's the name of that, Sherry?
Well, I don't like to. I can announce it. It's fine, but I also have to.
You don't have to.
I can announce it. It's just fine. It's Thriving Singles Community. But they are screened. People are screened. The people that are in it are people who are doing work for bettering their lives. They have to be interested in being coached. There's a bunch of rules, just a few rules in there. We're not going to be complaining, and we're not going to be validating too much, but mostly just how can we make our better of ourselves. So anyway,
I like that.
That I didn't want to announce just because of that reason, because I don't accept everyone. And
you know what? And that's okay. Like when you run a Facebook group, you can manage
however you set those boundaries all you want.
That is right. So the reason, everybody, that I reached out to Sherry is because, as you guys know on the podcast, we're all about singles. We're trying to kind of do a grassroots thing to reach out to people who right now we don't have a lot of support in other areas. So Sherry is very much like that. Though she includes all Christian singles, she does a great job with reaching out and supporting and trying to do whatever she can to help the LDS singles as well. And so that's why we have her on. She has got a great message to share. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your companies first before we get into the message, or
Yeah, well, probably because that does tell you what my message is. It tells you who I am and what I'm doing and why. So first of all, I have a business I started in 2020 when everyone was going home and working from home. And the business I started is Sherry K Consulting, LLC. In my past history of employment is an executive secretary for regional directors in the hospital. And then also I was an office manager for a therapy office. And so I was able to grow their business and have the experience that I did in working, a lot of it working from home. So all the skills that I gained with that, I said, heck, I'm just gonna start a business doing this. So I support therapists and life coaches and office managers on setting up their businesses online. That's the first one.
Okay.
And because of that has helped me to get to build a really strong network of these therapists and life coaches. And that has been that's kind of was my first step in this amazing group of people. I just want to be able to help them to expand their influence. That's kind of what I'm about, is connecting, I would say, bottom line. And then the other business is the Dating Olympics, LLC. I did the Dating Olympics 26 years ago when I lived in San Diego. I was just in a singles ward, and it was around, 1996, it was Olympics. And we thought it would be fun to make dating fun by making it a competition. And for doing that, we had a handful of rules, maybe 5 rules, where they would earn points for asking on dates and points for accepting dates. And they would get points for group dates. I mean, there's actually a little bit of dating science in it as well. The motivations that we want to help them to overcome their fears, really.
Right.
So, and it's kind of like, it's just gamification is really what it's kind of turning into be. So yeah, 26 years later, and I hate dating. I'll be honest with you. And I just thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be good to make it fun. And so I wanted to start this, and I thought, really, I could do this as a business. So that's where it's going. And that community that I have, the Thriving Singles community, is what I've kind of said it a little bit about. I'm in the group here and there, but I feel like we're kind of in the preliminary stages right now, and if we were to compare to Olympics. In that, I post, we do different courses. I have these videos with therapists and life coaches and whatever, public speakers, and we teach different principles that just help with whatever we need at this time. And there's a handful of things we could come up with that we as singles need right now. So that's kind of what that is. And so it is eventually the ultimate goal, I guess the end goal of the Dating Olympics will be a compilation of all of it. It would have public speakers, and it would have the 2 weeks of in-person dating competition. That's where we get the points. And then the rewards are, no less than $500 for the gold.
Oh.
And maybe $300 for silver. And then also it would be, I have a cousin he works in, he has an organization where they do like rope courses and stuff up in the high Uintas. And he said, let's do that for part of the reward too. So there's just a bunch of things that we're putting together for the rewards and the fun that adds to it. So
Cool.
And it'd be 5 weeks.
With inflation the way it is right now, I think we're gonna have to make it $550, or I'm not even interested.
Okay, let's do it.
So
And I think we have like a
gas to get there.
Like
yeah, and
bonus,
tomorrow it'll have to be $555.
yeah, like a bonus 50 points if you get a kiss at the end of the night of the date.
Yes.
Oh,
And
hello.
a whole tank of gas.
Yeah, that's worth $55 right there.
I'm thinking about taco truck and get some gas for my car.
Right?
Yes. So yeah, anyway, it is in the works. It's going to be, it's a huge project that I put together, but with the people that I'm working with right now, they're all big dreamers, and they have big aspirations. I'm actually working with, I mentioned the filmmaker that's in our group, he has offered to help me with the promotion of it. So, I mean, it's just stuff like that keeps kind of falling into place with it. So anyway.
And I love that it's kind of like a grassroots thing. That's kind of been my thing lately. Like, I'm just like, I feel like I know the church is aware of us. Obviously, they spoke of us in conference. They did a little, fireside-y thing for us, but it's just going to take a long time for the church to really come up with programs and general leaders and things for us, because it's a worldwide church and there's a lot that goes into it. So I feel like we as single members are just going to have to branch out. We're just going to have to do our part, uplift where we can and support where we can. And so I like how you've got this whole thing in the works, and it sounds amazing. So,
And it takes a village, to be honest. I mean,
Yes.
I run a Facebook page too, and I love seeing it trickle in other areas. I mean, it really does take a village.
yeah, I
Terry,
agree.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Don, did you want to say
No.
something? I don't interrupt you.
No,
I'm glad you said that, Terry, because that's exactly how I feel. I feel like everyone in there has something to offer.
Yeah.
I mean, even people that would just consider themselves the singles that aren't the influencers, they're influencing as much as
Yes,
anyone, sharing
absolutely.
their stories. And I just love, also I was thinking today, all the events that come through and announcing the videos and stuff that everyone is doing. It's just it's a smorgasbord of options and opportunities to learn right now and to have that support. I love that there are so many people out there doing this stuff, and it's kind of fun to put it all together and share it all.
Well, and it helps the people who are just starting to go through maybe our journey that we've already, crossed that path.
Yeah.
It helps them to realize that, they're not alone. Everybody went through some sort of, crap or
Yes.
phase that you didn't really necessarily
Everyone.
enjoy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yep.
even if they've never been married, and like a lot of us have been divorced, and that's traumatic. But if you're in this church at our age and you've never been married, that's, I think, is just as traumatic. I
Yeah.
think there's still broken hearts, there's broken relationships, and there's broken dreams there as well. So I think that as we come together as singles and just unite, like lift where we stand, right? That old talk from, I don't even know how many conferences ago.
Mhm.
Lift where you stand, right? Like where you're at, lift those around you.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have got a good group here of people who are trying to reach out and connect to those who might feel lonely, who might feel like they have no one to turn to for support. So yeah, this is a good group. And we thank you, Sherry, for your part in that. And that's why when I realized what you were doing, I reached out and wanted to get you here on the show. So, okay. So your topic for tonight is helping us as singles go from coping from whatever we've gone through, the challenges, divorce, singlehood, parent, have no kids, whatever the situation is, to thriving in our life.
Yeah.
And that's essential, right? We don't want to stay coping every single day. So why don't you just give us a rundown really quick of the topic, and then we'll start where it is you want us to begin.
Okay. Well, I could just briefly, I don't know exactly if I should just share my story really briefly, and then we can talk more details. Is that good?
You are good. You can tell
we're gonna let you
want.
just go, girl. You just go. Let the spirit move you,
Guide me.
That's
Yes,
right.
and we'll try to stay out of your way.
I have Kleenexes here. That's
Oh, excellent.
Guess what? I have one too, because I knew.
I only have dog snacks.
okay.
I feel gypped.
Yeah,
Oh, all of
I
us
can be
have
very
seen it.
emotional, so I'm ready to.
I
Oh,
do.
great.
I was just taught this just yesterday that there's a difference between emotional tears and spirit tears. Like when the spirit is touching you, a lot of people think it's the spirit touching him, and a lot of people just emotion. And the way this person defined that is, I don't know, this is off the subject.
No, you're good.
But the way that he defined it, he said that if it inspires you, if it, what did he say, enlightens you or educates you, then it's the spirit. But everything else is likely emotions. But anyway, okay. So any bets on the first one to cry?
You're not supposed to call me out like that.
I will totally be the one to cry.
I'm like 11-1, but you might win a lot of money on it. Go for it.
So I love that here's what I love, you guys. There are things that we all know, and there are things that we all don't know, and each of us things that we don't know that we don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about just our group. I don't even look at any group as in any better than another, because I learn as much from you as I'm able to teach you. So I just love how we are able to, each of us come from different places. So when I teach these things, I always hesitate to, I just hope I don't ever come across as saying, I know all the answers. I'm just going to share with you my personal experiences. But yeah, I don't have the answers. Anyway, I have, I'm not going to look at the chat because that's going to distract me.
Yeah, that's fine. Some people
Just
shut it off.
minimize it.
Because the truth is, we have a very
Pay no
lively chat.
attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's right.
It applies here as well.
I'm
'Cause
kind
they
of
will
chatty
try-
tonight.
They will try to throw stuff in there to knock you off your course too. And then they're like, oh, I totally got you to react. So yeah, it might be good just to
And then I do that to Celeste
Yeah.
all the time.
That's awesome. So, okay, I can just tell you where I was. And I would guess it to be about 10 years ago. And I was married and in a place of, I was very discouraged all the time. I was a victim. I was always convinced that my husband was to blame for all of our marital problems. And I was stuck in that. I was stuck in wanting to seek validation from people. And I was validated by anyone that would hear my story. They all validated me. And they all said, you have the right to feel the way that you feel. And so I was stuck there for a little bit. And that's when I was kind of the perspective, I guess, that I had at that time is just kind of, the coping, like from day to day. And it was, I didn't see a better way. I didn't see myself as capable in doing certain things that I wanted to do. But in order for me to progress, the very first step for me was self-compassion. It was seeing myself as a valuable person that has feelings and I'm able to have personal boundaries and I'm able to speak up for myself. That actually happened when I saw in my daughter someone, it wasn't her dad, just so you know, someone was mistreating her. And I jumped in to intervene and stood up for her. And I said, is it okay for people to treat you like that? And anyway, I just talked to her about that too. And it's not okay. And then it just occurred to me, that was the first thing for me, the first moment in probably all of my life when I felt like, so why I'm giving compassion to my daughter, why can't I do that to myself? Why can't I see myself as valuable enough to have that compassion, self-acceptance? And so just that was the very first step. And then my first step in healing came when I stopped seeking validation. I stopped seeking for other people to say, you have a right to feel the way that you feel. I had to do that for myself because anyone who would say that you would think would be not compassionate. But for myself, I had to say that I am, okay, so maybe I am validated in some of these, but now what? And forgiveness. And the bigger piece of that too was, what part of this is mine? I had, if I don't know, go back a little bit on my life story, I was raised by my personal life story. I was raised, my father was an alcoholic and my mother was codependent. And then we hear this all the time, I'm sure. But that just means that my mom, the patterns that I saw were that if everyone is not at peace and everyone is not happy, then we need to control that. And we need to fix it so that we can have peace. If I can't have peace unless everyone in the family is having peace and doing what they need to be doing. And that was obviously, that's what codependence was. So me realizing codependence and me realizing my self-righteousness and controlling, and that it wasn't my husband at the time that was all at fault, that I was 50%. I had, what is my 50%? And so starting to work on me, starting to say, yeah, I don't need to be validated anymore. That's where my healing started. And I was able to, through those experiences, I was able to now I feel like I have the ability to feel peace in the middle of storms.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't been tested too much. I mean, I still feel like I can, but I think like this whole 2 years of the society, everything that's going on around me and around us that we see on the news and everywhere around us, I still feel like my heart is so anchored on hope and on love and on forgiveness and faith and Jesus Christ that I feel at peace constantly, no matter what is going on around me.
You
So
know, oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
it's okay. You're
Okay,
good.
I was just gonna say, because you've said a whole bunch of things and I really want to hop in, but I want to go hop on this one. So
Sorry.
when you're no, you're good. I love how you're saying that you've figured out that you can be in a solid, calm, peaceful place, even if the world around you is going, crazy. Because there always is that, the eye of the storm theory. Like if you are in the middle of the storm and you're safe and quiet and calm and peaceful, like the whole world around you can be in complete and utter chaos, but it's not affecting you because you're on a more solid foundation. You found your own inner peace, even if everybody else around you
Yes.
is not. Now,
Yes.
growing up in the family I grew
Yeah.
up in, it sounds similar to yours. Like if someone was upset, we all had to be upset.
Yeah.
If if someone was upset, you had to kind of have these steps on how you reacted to them, the things you said. If you didn't have a lot of drama and you're, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's happening to you, whatever, then they perceived it as you didn't love them, right? So when I found my eye of the storm and when I moved back and stepped back and created my own little safe place, they weren't very happy. And that's a hard transition. So if you can find that spot, and
there's a backlash.
Yeah, they almost backlash, like worse. Like they get so mad at you for like, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah,
and
how dare you be healthy?
Yeah, it's actually really hard. So anybody who can find that spot and stay there, I'm like, kudos. I think it's awesome because it's tough. It's a tough.
Well, and I'm just going to be honest and a little confession here. That actually is what I think, and what I think my former spouse would also describe as the reason why our marriage ended. He's blaming me for changing so much, and I'm blaming him for not. And maybe it was, the dynamics of our relationship that changed, and it was with personal boundaries. I had never, to that point in all of my life, had personal boundaries. I always thought that personal boundaries meant that it's you're not nice, or I don't know what I thought, but I didn't. In fact, you guys, I didn't even understand the first time I heard the word boundaries. I felt like it was the first time I'd ever heard it in my life. And it was like when I was actually close to the end of my marriage, maybe 3 years to the end. But hearing that, I was like, what in the heck? And how do I set the boundaries? And people would say, sure, you've got to set boundaries. And I was like, well, how do I do that? What does that mean? And I was so oblivious to, I hear it all the time now. I don't know if that's just more common or if I'm just more in tune to it, but I definitely hear the term boundaries a lot more than I ever have. But yes,
I think that's probably because they get crossed more than they ever have. Like at least in many generations, I don't know that and part of that may be technology too. I think we're just able to peek into each other's lives, too much in some ways. And we're having arguments with strangers who live 2,000 miles away and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it's just what a strange world. And I think in some ways it makes it better because we're able to be more intimate with a bigger number of people and have more connection, but we're also able to be divided in a much bigger way too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
And one more thing. Okay. So
doesn't have to just
and then I'll let this go. But you said so many great things. But when you were talking about how, now it slipped my mind because someone might be messaging me. Terry.
Uh-oh.
I'm innocent.
Terry.
What? No, but whatever. You were saying something about how when you're in a place and you found that you needed to grow and move forward because, it was about validation. And you said, I wanted to be validated and everyone will validate, but I needed to move beyond that. And I think what it is, I think validation is good, but like you're saying, you can't just want that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that phrase that's kind of been circulating right now. It's like the Lord loves you exactly how you are.
Yeah.
He also loves you too much to leave you there. And
Yeah.
that's kind of that theory. Like, yes, I love you. I validate you've been through a lot, but you need to move forward as well. So
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, it took me a while to
Well, it's
drag that on my brain.
it's really tricky in the position that we have as being supportive to others. That's what I would say is I will validate you and to the moon and back, because you have the right to feel the way that you feel. Either party. I even validate my former spouse. I validate him for the pain that he felt. Even though there were times I was blaming him for causing that pain, I validate the pain, whatever it's coming from, whether it's shame or rejection or whatever. Everyone has that validation, but that is not where the healing is. And so that's what I would say to people in supporting them. I would say, yes, I validate you and you have every right to feel that way. And I believe that you can heal and that you can get past that and find out what it is that you can do differently or what you can learn from.
I think that's the key is, can you both validate and set boundaries with the same person?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know? And that's the key, because if you do too much of either one, you know, you're going to get off center, you know, and if the echo always coming back is validating you, but never holding you accountable, yeah, that's a problem too, you know?
Yeah. John, I have a question for you. Do you care if I ask you, put you on the hot seat?
You know, they do it all the time.
Ooh, swap it.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
It's not personal. It's not the hot seat. So I've always been curious how a therapist, you're a therapist, right?
I am a therapist, yes.
So do you do couples therapy?
I've done a lot of couples therapy. Right now, I work mostly with troubled kids and their parents.
Okay.
But for the last 3 years prior to that, I was doing almost over half my practice was working with couples. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, even troubled kids and parents, there are two parties involved and they're both hurting and they're both maybe in the wrong to some degree, maybe.
No, yeah.
So how do you, my question has always been for therapists. I just think it's such a great skill to be able to validate. How do you validate both of them and encourage both of them without the other one feeling unvalidated or invalidated?
Well, first of all, they know that I'll validate, but I'll also point out how, you know, sometimes they're doing things that backfire too.
Yeah.
You know, but it's equal opportunity because it's a dance they're all doing together. And I think the negative pattern is the enemy, not them.
Yeah.
Like to each other, you know. So sometimes it may involve, you know, them being kind of open with how they're hurting and stuff. And we can validate that, you know, or we can validate their concerns while also helping them recognize how their part of the dance contributes to that too.
Yeah.
And so I think when they learn the complexity of it and they start to realize, ooh, I'm both the sort of the victim of that in a way, but I'm also the perpetrator of that. And not like perpetrating a crime, but more, I'm advancing that negative pattern.
Yes.
You know, so, and it might be because maybe I'm too much of a pushover, or maybe I'm too much of a controller, or, you know, and when I do one, I encourage the other, you know, and that doesn't mean I have to take the bait and do my half of it.
Yeah.
But it's understandable. And so you'll even, I've validated, I get why you do even these unhealthy things. I can see that they serve a purpose, you know.
Yeah.
The question is, could you get that to that same purpose? Could you fulfill that same purpose, but without all the side effects of the unhealthy way of getting there?
Yeah. How is it serving you is the question, right? How is it serving you? And what else can you do to serve yourself in a...
Yeah, because listen, if you want to feel good, there is really nothing faster than heroin.
Yeah.
You know, and you will feel like amazing. And you will never feel that again. And after about 3 months, you'll be taking it to not die. You know, and so that's the unfortunate thing. And so that's an extreme example, but it's the same thing. We literally get a high off of our negative reactions to people. So for example, like someone who is a pushover gets a high off of feeling like I'm the good person. I'm the one that takes care of people. I'm the one that can be patient and forgiving, you know? So I feel
Especially
so
if they're
good
praised about it all the time.
Right.
Then
And
yeah.
then the person who controls is I take charge. I make stuff happen. I don't let it just keep going the way it is. I'm a mover and a shaker,
Yeah.
you know, and
I
so
feel
both of them
targeted.
will validate themselves and blame the other, you know, and when in reality, both are unhealthy. And if they could bring them into balance, both could actually be helpful.
Yeah.
So
There are a couple of coaches in the group that I associate with that have this term, the Kathy, you guys probably know Kathy and Jeff Tykert.
Yeah.
And Kathy.
oh yeah. We've had them on the show.
Oh yeah, that's right. Recently, yeah, that's right. Anyway, she has this term, flips and flops, flip flops. I don't know if she mentioned that. I didn't watch the video, but where she says we have these things that we consider to be our strengths, but on the flip side, they're probably also our weaknesses. So
Yeah.
the same goes that way. You see weaknesses in yourself, you can also see that that's a strength. So yeah, I think that's also part of it, of healing and progressing and thriving also, is to see your weaknesses as much as your strengths, and to not let that be shameful. There's no reason to feel so negative about it, just to learn from it. And
can you see your weaknesses without shame, and can you see your strengths without arrogance?
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
You know, just be confident and humble.
The thing is with weaknesses, just as it states scripturally, like if we're willing to recognize them, if we're willing to say, I really probably need some improvement in whatever area, the Lord is then like, oh, you're teachable, you're moldable.
Yes.
Let me help you take that weakness and make it your strength. And so there's a growth mindset to it. It's like, okay, yes, right now that's not your strength, but you know what? You can learn, you can grow, you can change and create new paths and have a strength at the opposite end of a really big weakness you had to begin with. So it's in your mind how you view it. So
that Ether 1227 concept is I call that one of the therapist's favorite scriptures. But when you look at it, it's a very simple formula. It's humility and faith. And the way I remind myself of that is, if I can recognize my weakness and recognize his strength, then will he make weak things strong unto me.
Yeah.
And so he's just saying, I need you to be humble, and then I need you to believe that I can heal you, and then I'll heal you.
Right.
You know? And it reminds me of a scene from The Chosen. If any of you have not watched The Chosen, please just go binge it. Watch the first 2 seasons this weekend. What a great way to prepare for conference. But anyway, there's the episode where Jesus heals the man who's been by the well for most of his life, waiting to go into the well, the healing waters of Bethesda. Okay. And here's this man just absolutely devastated. He's been there for literally decades. And Jesus says, do you want to be healed? And he says, yes, but I can't get to the water fast enough because I'm crippled. And so the other people get to jump in first, because it's the first one who touches the water that's healed, supposedly, according to the legend. And he says, but I will heal you. Do you believe I can heal you? And when he's looking in his eyes, and this man is looking back in Jesus's eyes, it's just the most powerful and beautiful experience. And he doesn't even know why, but he says, yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
And he literally just stands up, picks up his bed, and walks away
with a big old smile on his face. He's like,
crying happy tears.
Yeah.
So chemically they're not like pain tears.
They're not pain tears.
No, and then he goes telling everyone in town,
Yep.
Look at me.
Right.
He and the way they portrayed it in The Chosen is that when he was a boy, he fell out of a tree and was paralyzed. And so to see that turnaround for someone who had been just suffering for so long. And I think of us, all of us have something that cripples us, something that traumatizes us, if not in the body, definitely in the spirit. And Yeah, and I think if we can recognize I'm weak, Lord, help thou mine unbelief kind of thing. Yeah, he can work a lot of miracles in our lives, I think. So
Great.
So good.
All right, Sherry.
Keep
I
going.
told you we do rabbit holes here, so we're back on course.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, something that you said, Celeste, that made me think of the reason why, if someone were to ask me, what is the most important concept that you can teach someone, maybe who is newly divorced or who is somehow in a rut or just newly having this marital loss that is so devastating, I would say the very first step is self-love, self-compassion. And I had mentioned that before. And so I am big on that, on teaching it and supporting it and encouraging that. I think that, I don't know if it's just in the church, you guys, and I don't ever want it to sound like it's negative. I love the church. I love the gospel. I do sometimes feel like there's pressure to be more and do better. And I will just be honest with you, I hate the term. Someone just said it recently and it just makes me cringe. And I'll tell you why. It's not about finding the right person, it's about being the right person. And I'll tell you the reason why I hate that. And that is because I spent 13 years plus trying to be the right person, trying to hold this marriage together, trying to love someone with all of my heart without condition, and trying, and maybe for the wrong intents, maybe to force them into being him, into loving me or accepting the love or whatever it was. Whatever the motives are, I don't agree with the fact that it's all about you being the right person. I just don't think that's the answer to a happy marriage, is being the right person.
I do think if we include,
you have to change it. We're gonna have to just somehow, in my mind, you can change it. You can change it, John, or fix it somehow.
well, I don't mind the phrase, and here's why. Like but we gotta really define what be the best person means.
Yes.
And that mean you don't put up with things unconditionally.
Yeah.
You do set boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of being the right person is, you do have self-compassion.
Yeah.
You do have patience with yourself. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we think of it as I gotta bend over backwards and be self-sacrificing, when in reality it also includes setting boundaries and just saying, I don't have to offer myself on the altar of perfection
Yeah.
to be totally taken advantage of by another human being. That was never required,
And
the thing is,
well, there's probably a better phrase to just say that.
You know what? I think it's a recovering codependent in me that hates it. That's probably what it is. And so running with it to say, so I can see also the importance of being the right person. It's not about me finding someone who's going to serve me in every way and be the magical, man of my dreams, as much as I want to be the woman of his, but I think that might be what they're saying is don't focus so much on who they are for you. Maybe that's more what it is. But anyway, I just that just kind of grind on.
Well, and I do think when we get right, I do think we attract people who are more dreamy for us and fit our lives better and stuff like that. But I think there's better ways to say it for sure.
The thing is with that phrase is there's the opposite side of the coin, right? Yes, we try to be our best and present ourselves, be the best we can be, and to bring to a relationship. But you need to expect that, like John's saying, you need to have boundaries and expectations on the other half. And we also have to keep in mind, and I had to learn this the really hard way. It sounds as if Sherry kind of, me and her walk similar paths, but in all these things, in all these relationships, and no matter how much effort we put forward, everybody has agency.
Yes.
And the Lord will not force, even if I'm given 175% into something, the Lord will not force the other half to follow through. And so we can do all we can. And I think that's a misconception culturally within the church, is that I have enough faith as a wife, as a person, to save this marriage.
Yeah, that's where I was.
You have enough faith to do your part to the max, but the other person still has to be willing to go. So it's agency. There's two sides to that coin. So
Yeah.
That's my opinion on that.
Oh, I love it. So are you guys ready for a mentoring technique?
Sure.
You
All
wanna
right.
do
great.
technique?
Yeah.
Interactive. I don't know how interactive it has to be, but you have to get a piece of paper and a pen. Everyone has to get, you can get a 8.5 by 11,
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
a little notebook. It has to be big enough to write a few things on it. Yeah, you can
Me
do
it.
8.5 by 11.
I have
have
nothing.
Clipboard.
That's okay. So Terry, do you have a dry erase board?
Terry has
No.
her bag of dog snacks that
I
she
do.
can write on.
You have a marker? You can write on that.
It's from Christmas. It's jingle jingle jerky.
Does it break his teeth?
That's okay. I've got me a
I don't-
clipboard, so-
I don't even have anything to write with. I am so unprepared.
I am prepared with something to write with. You may now begin.
Okay. Since John's ready, we can do this.
I'll just put mine in a chat to you.
All right, I
Sharon.
was gonna say, or you could use your phone and take a note. You can do it that way too.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
I can do that.
and you can do it later. You might have already done this. It's something that a lot of coaches do, and it's one of the first techniques that we can use. Life coaches or mentor. I'm a certified mentor, but I don't do that professionally. I just do it. I just do it for fun right now.
Hey, you're lucky I found my notes because I don't even know where my notes my phone.
Okay. You know what? I actually could even post this somewhere. I actually have a handout that people can use, but right now, just for now, if you want to, anyone that's listening can do this.
All
But
right.
first, I want to give a short, maybe just a little, I don't know if it's a lesson or a disclaimer or something. It probably just a little piece of information. And it's what we were just talking about. Let me just dive right in. So we have in our minds, well, we know that everything that we feel starts with a thought, right? That our thoughts create the emotions, and our emotions create our behaviors, and our behaviors create the habits and the actions. And anyway, it's a cycle, always a cycle. So if you are ever feeling, if you have, it's this exercise is what will help you to recognize your self-talk and to change it, which is what I love about it. But it starts our context and this is another whole, like maybe a 3-hour discussion that I had. I mean, a seminar, and I'm telling you guys this in like 3 minutes. So we have this context that we were maybe born with. It was the very first thought that we had. It can be physiological for an adopted child. Their physiological feelings and their thought of separating from their mom, there's actually an effect from that. And John can probably attest to that too, because he works with troubled children. That's a lot of the context that they're dealing with. So context is how you see yourself and how you think the world sees you. It's just your place in the world. So are you, and very typical, it's I am not enough. I am not loved. I am not worthy. Those are the kind of things that's typical for a child who was adopted is I am not loved. I am not wanted. My daughter is adopted and we figured that out too with her. But anyway, these are these thoughts. And so what I'm wanting to do is have you pay attention to what these thoughts are that stop you. What are those things that stop you when you're about to do something really big or something, setting a goal or accomplishing a goal? What are those thoughts that get in your way that keep you back from doing that? So I want you guys to write down on one side of your paper. Let's see, write down. You can just start with 3. Sometimes you can do 5, but just write down some of those thoughts that you have. Whatever. I don't want to make too many suggestions because it might be.
So like, okay, so you're saying something big, like as in.
Well, like you want to be like a public speaker. You want to go speak on stage and you're like, no. So what is the thought that keeps you from doing that, Terry? Like, what are some of those thoughts?
Well, first of all, that would never happen. Let's get that straight.
So you've got to come up with
something big. How about go on a date with a hot guy that you've had a crush on for months? Like, why would you be held back from doing that? I don't know an example, but anyway, if you want to do this.
Okay. So this is where we need like the Jeopardy music. So I know you're a singer, John. Have at it.
So, okay, so we're just supposed to write like a thought, like, is it
There's
just
words
like
to
a
the
word?
Jeopardy.
Yeah. So the messages, so here's the thing. When you were between the ages of like 4 and 8 years old, you had an experience that gave you some kind of context that came up, and it has ruled your life since then. Like you listen to this thought and it comes up every time something comes up that reminds you of that. And mine is, I am not enough. That was one of mine until I did this exercise and been working on this. But I am not
That's
enough.
really stupid.
I am not loved is another one. I am not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not like anything like that comes up. Anything that stops you from doing what you want to do. And we're older. It's harder for us. My daughter at 10 years old, she was able to come up with these within seconds. She just made the list without any
So
thought.
we just have to make a list of those thoughts.
Yeah. You can just go with 3 if you want. Or you can do more, but start with 3. It's a little for the sake of time.
Okay, I got my 3. I'm good to go.
Okay. I should have a demonstration, but it's on the left side of your paper, right? Is that how you did it? I
Oh,
didn't tell you to do
Oh,
that.
no.
but that's okay. I can pretend it's on the left side of my paper.
It's on my phone.
Okay, that's okay. It won't, Cherry, this exercise won't work for you, but you can do this later. So
Okay.
if you, and I didn't explain this, but if it's folded in half and on the left side, you write these 3 to 5 to 20 things. And then on the right side, write exactly opposite of what you just wrote, the exact opposite, and add another adjective to like kick it out of the water. So an example would be, I am not enough on the left side. I am not smart enough is what is one for me. I am not smart enough. And then on the right side, I am smart. I am brilliant, or I am brilliantly smart, or like just add another adjective. Or 3, 2 or 3 or 4 adjectives that kick it out of the water. Like you want to kick it out of your mind.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if anyone else is doing it in the group, but you guys we're having a little pause for a minute, just a moment.
That's all right. That's why we need John singing the Jeopardy song.
Oh yeah,
but he's concentrating.
I must admit, I don't know the lyrics to the Jeopardy
no,
song.
I just wanted the music. I don't think it has lyrics. There we go.
There you go. That's fine.
Oh, I can see how this stuff works. All right.
Yeah.
Now the trick is, do we actually believe the right hand side?
So that's what I'm going to tell you all about. Yes, Susan, awesome. Susan's doing the list. Awesome. Everyone do the list. And I can do this. I can.
What if the one thing that you wrote is actually proving to be true, because you can't spell the word you want to say?
That's okay. I am learning to spell.
I was gonna say, this is like, you got to have that open mindset that I'm gonna be able to learn how to spell these words.
I was totally joking. I saw an opportunity.
Yes. That's awesome.
All right, I am ready. I've got both sides filled out.
Okay. I'll just wait for Terry and John. Whenever you guys are ready, I'll
okay.
I'm ready too. And you guys, you can do this later. Really, this is just, it's fun to do it this way because then I can show you how it works.
Yeah, cool.
I'm almost there.
Okay.
John, you should have had those puppies whipped out, because you're a therapist. You'd be like, oh, I totally know. I totally know the negative things I'm saying.
Well, and actually it's possible that John might not find a lot because of the work he does. It's possible. There's we still, as human beings, we still have
a lot in there.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm still guilty of negative self-talk, so I gotta work on that.
Yeah. So the more you do this kind of stuff and the declarations as well, I'll explain a little more of that. You do get to the point where you're like, I don't have any negative self-talk. Like whenever it comes up, I kick it out of the water and I
love that though. Like that's a really good coping skill that my therapist gave me years back, is that I think in those moments when you have the negative self-talk, you kind of have to validate it. Okay, you're feeling this way and you kind of feel like whatever, but how am I going to react and how am I going to rethink? Like how am I going to readjust that thought? Because you don't want to suppress it because then it, gets all crazy. But
yeah. And I always ask,
and
I always ask, yeah. And I always ask myself as well, what triggered this thought?
Yeah.
What was the cause of this?
Right.
So I've done a lot of self-work on this. So this is actually really hard for me to go back.
That's good. That's good because you've worked on this, right? So I'll give you an example of this whole context thing real quickly before I get into the exercise. Maybe demonstrate a little bit of how it works. In the seminar that I did, where I learned this concept, it took days that we were diving deep into our history, our memories. And I remembered an event that happened when I was 4 years old. This was something that came to my mind as clear as day, as if it had happened yesterday. And I had never thought about it since. But I have since, but before I dove into my thinking, my thought, I hadn't remembered this, but it was when I was 4 years old and my mom was sitting on the bed crying. And in my family, I was sunshine. I was daddy's little girl, daddy's sunshine. And my job was to make everybody happy. That's what I thought as a 4-year-old. So I jumped up on my mom's lap in my role of Sherry Sunshine to make my mom happy. And she pushed me down onto the floor, not like push me, but she just said, go play, push me away. And in that moment, the thought I had at 4 years old is, I am not good enough to make my mom happy. Like this is who I am. I can't even make my mom happy. And so from that moment, whenever anything happens, when I'm trying to make someone happy or I feel like I can't, that shame would come up, and it would be just this lie that I told myself when I was 4 years old. So I since then had gone back to help with that and to, do the work like Terry says she's done, that where it doesn't happen anymore. But it's kind of an example of these things, these stories that come up when we're 3 or 4 years old. And then we tell ourselves, and then like Terry said, you were also giving the example jokingly.
Yeah.
Prove myself right, and all these incidents that come up, I'm going to prove myself right. I really am not good enough to make anybody happy. So anyway, that's just an example of what these stories, these lies do to us. Okay, so they're lies, you guys. On the left column, those are lies. So now rip your page in half all the way down the middle.
Oh.
If I do that, I won't be able to talk to anybody again. This may not be such a bad thing.
You don't want to rip your phone in half.
Terry.
No more podcast for me.
All right, I'm ripped.
Awesome. Okay, so now you have two sides. The left side are the lies. The right side is the truth. And so the lies, rip them up, shred them. You can burn them. A lot of people will burn them.
Yes, please.
Oh my gosh, one of my friends that did this with me, she flushed it down the toilet. I don't know how good that was for this.
Oh. Failure floats to the top.
You want to get rid of them. So with this exercise, what you're doing is you're putting you're making these thoughts tangible, and then you're ripping them up and throwing them away. It's kind of how it works, is that now that you have them taken out of your brain and put on a piece of paper and ripped up and thrown away. So now you replace those thoughts with the ones on the right side. And so look at those statements on the right, the ones that you wrote that were truths, that have, I am smart and I am brilliant, whatever it might be. Those are your declarations. And so if this was a group, we would have everybody stand up and they would say it to each other. We don't have to do that unless you guys want to.
Stand it up.
I'm good. Look at the time.
Oh yeah.
So that's what you do. And then doing this, you can do this with your family. It's fun to do with your family. So when you do this, it feels awkward. And I think it was Celeste who said, what if you don't believe these?
Oh, I was going to say, because I want to do this with my kids. So I would read off my right hand and then they would repeat it back to me.
No, you read yours and they read theirs. So your new context for yourself is, I am brilliant, or I am amazing, or I am whatever I am. smart, whatever it is.
This would be
I'm not nearly as much of an idiot as I thought I was.
I was gonna say, if I
Oh,
could do this, I would be so excited.
I'm just
These are
messing
like my
around.
goals.
Yes. And then there are several things you can do with this. I can give you a couple of ideas and then we can move on to the up topic too, but there are a couple of things we can do. So what I've had my daughter do and myself, we write down these terms in text, like an alarm on our phone. So at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. when the alarm rings, we say those thoughts to ourselves. I am brilliant. So hers was, I am brave, loving, smart, safe, and strong. So every time the alarm went off, she would say that I am brave, loving, smart, safe, and strong. And it happened for a while to where she just did that. Those were not, that she programmed her thoughts to believe these instead of those lies that she was believing.
And then you could work on others.
Yeah, and then you
go
go into more.
Sure.
Yeah. When it doesn't feel like it's like Celeste was saying, you don't know if you really believe it. The more you tell yourself, the more you will believe it. And then once you believe it so much that it becomes who you think you are, then you can change, like you said, to another one. So I think anyone in the group in the chats that want to say their new declaration.
Yeah, they could put
who is in there. John Hamilton.
Friendly. John's friendly.
So here's my thought, because I'm over here envisioning me saying these to my kids now, my list.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a hard time saying them. So that would show that I don't quite yet believe that.
Yeah. So you keep saying it. You keep saying it until you believe it. Yeah. And it feels awkward. And it especially feels awkward because we're used to talking negative about ourselves, aren't we? We're used to saying, yeah, I'm an idiot, or like John was saying, I'm an idiot. Is that what you said?
I'm not as much of it. No,
I'm not as much of an idiot.
That, you know?
No, I know, but that's where we're comfortable is dishing ourselves more than we are praising ourselves. And so that's what we want to change, is speak kindly of yourself. It also gives other people the right, it gives them the freedom to speak kindly of themselves as well.
That's right, John. It looks like you want to share one of yours.
What are some of the things that
Who are you talking to?
I was saying, John, it looked like you wanted to share one of yours.
No, I was just reviewing.
I can see I want to say one of these out loud.
You know what I was thinking to myself, because everything, you know me, like everything's like a parable or a movie line or something from a musical. But there's actually a song. There's a song in the musical SpongeBob SquarePants showing at Eccles Theater the last 2 weekends, last 2 weeks of April.
I hear that's really cool. I don't know.
Oh, that guy is amazing. He's gonna blow the roof off. I'm telling you. Yeah. But anyway, so Mr. Krabs has 2 employees, Squidward and SpongeBob, and Squidward actually has this solo in the musical, and it's called "I'm Not a Loser." Is the name of the song. I'm not a loser, and.
You're gonna give us
he sings it kind of like a show tune, and it's got tap dancers, and it's pretty amazing. And it's how he's not all these horrible things he keeps telling himself he is. It's like he's trying to convince himself he's actually a worthy human, a worthy squid.
Not a loser.
Yeah. So
all squid are worthy.
Yes.
You got to go a step further, and it's not that you're not the horrible thing. You got to literally entertain the thought at least.
Right.
They really are the opposite. And I think if we really get into our spiritual self, we're all spectacular,
Yes. Well, absolutely.
Another fun fact about squid too, just to totally get off topic, is they're really delicious.
Yes. And that's a frightening thought when I consider, that I'm in a show with a squid.
Yeah, that would be.
Just wait till after the show to eat him. Okay. Actually, it's a she. We actually have a woman playing the part, and she's incredible. So
I'm going to pull us all out of our little rabbit holes, and we're going to turn it back over.
Go.
All right.
Good, Celeste. So this actually is just something that you can do. That's just picking up your self-talk and making changes on it. That's all.
Awesome. Thanks.
So let's see. So that's the first step, talking about yourself. Now, in a positive way. And here's another piece that I wanted to mention that I think has been so huge for me. And I'm in the middle of it right now. So I'm preaching more than I'm able to show by demonstration all the time. But I believe that also Kiki, I've also considered myself a recovering perfectionist. And that has had me stuck also for many years. And now that I'm feeling like I feel much more free when I'm not worried about looking good and being right and all of that, where I just am vulnerable. I'm okay to be myself, and I'm okay to anyway, be a little embarrassed sometimes, and anyway, own it. So I think that's another thing as part of your self-image, is to like not be so stuck in having yourself be perfect
Right.
all the time and looking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's somebody wrote, that we need to let go of, lower expectations. I think there's like a few things where we need to have high, like not be abused, for example, or not be neglected, or to not allow ourselves to go deep into sin and not without like making an effort to like overcome our challenges and stuff like that. But I think there's so much room for softening our perfectionism, and softening our perfectionism in others, because I see so many people basically passing on really amazing potential partners. I'm sure I've done it too. And and I'm sure others have done it to me, where it's just like we get just too nitpicky about how everything's got to be just so. And I think if we could just let go of that and focus just on the big things, what's the big stuff that we really need in our lives,
Yeah, the list that people talk about.
Exactly.
Make it be so long. Anyway, that's good.
Yeah, keep it simple.
So I guess then the very last thing that I definitely wanted to point out is personal development is not about being perfect. For me, personal development is just being okay with, really a lot of it is being okay with who you are, accepting who you are, and having that healthy self-image, and being able to have peace in the middle of the storm. And it's all, for me, it's all about just living a more peaceful and healthy and productive life. I think that I really want to steer clear of ever making anyone feel like they have to be more or do more or be better. Like I don't ever want to give that preaching or impression that that's where the happiness is. And when anyone is feeling overwhelmed, that's what I would tell my clients is, it's not about doing more. It's not about adjusting your schedule so that you can fit more in because you're so overwhelmed. It would be about self-care. It would be about take care of yourself. And
yeah, if you're overwhelmed, let the focus, like I'll tell people, let the focus of therapy be, what do I do when I'm overwhelmed? How do I manage feeling overwhelmed in a more healthy way, and how can you practice that unless you actually feel overwhelmed?
Let go of some of it sometime though, right? Like let go of the expectation of having to do it all. Anyway, so well, that's all, you guys, that those are some of the things. And I had a list of the description of how I was when I was coping and how I feel like I am today, but I don't bore you with those details. But I had, if you guys want, just any questions you guys have for me, I'm up for whatever, maybe.
I think we're good. Good night, everybody. No, I'm just kidding.
What are you doing there? No.
Now, I'm sure we have many questions.
And the thing is, I mean, when do we not have something to talk about? We're always.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You should have seen the beginning of the show. Oof.
I mean, I know I seem shy and kind of introverted, but I actually do say some things every once in a while.
So here's the thing with perfection. This is what I've seen a lot in church culture, and I know it's just a misunderstanding of translation in the scriptures, but a lot of people come back to that, we've been commanded to be perfect, like our Father in heaven. And I think I see this a lot in women. I can't really speak for the men priesthood because I don't go there, but
I think one of the clearest signs that men do it too is how many leave the church after a divorce.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there's a lot.
They literally just drop out because it's almost like I can't come back and face everybody.
I can't be perfect. Yeah. The thing is I see this in the women where they're like, they view themselves as like a failure probably at the end of every day because they weren't perfect, because they had their perfect plan laid out about how they were going to react to their kids, what tone of voice, the things they were going to get done around the house, whatever it is, right? And by the time they reach the end of the day, I mean, it doesn't go as planned. And so they feel like they're a failure. So the thing is, it's important to recognize that when in the scriptures, when they use that term for perfect, they actually just mean whole or complete. And so it's not so much about perfection, because guess what? We could never, ever be perfect in this life. We can't. It's impossible. So every day we start out saying, I'm going to be perfect today, or I'm going to do everything on my list with perfection today, you are setting yourself up for failure, because guess you are not perfect and you can't be perfect.
So in essence, it's almost like the Ether 1227 idea, be healed.
Yeah.
So, be thou healed. And so what is that? That's like having faith that God can change you. And that's another name for that, is redemption. Christ is Savior and Redeemer. Savior means he kind of saves us from our sins. Redeeming means he changes us into a creature that's no longer sinful.
Yeah.
Right.
And so really what that's about is let him change you. It's not you become perfect. It's like, let him perfect you.
And I think that need to be perfect is what stems, like from that stems this, I can't show my weaknesses. I can't admit and talk about my struggles I'm having in my home or my marriage or inside my own head. Like, it kind of keeps people putting on this masquerade at church because they feel like, well, I'm not perfect, which means I'm failing, which means I'm not going to admit to everybody I'm failing. So I'm just going to kind of keep it to myself and put on my happy face and go to church when my whole world behind this fake little masquerade is in complete disarray. And I think if we, I mean, obviously it's men and women, if we can go to church realizing, I'm broken. Like I am striving, but dang it, I keep failing.
Yes.
And it's okay. Like, I feel like failure is probably, I mean, you can use that word, but I keep missing the mark. But that's what life is. Like, we keep trying over and over again. And guess what? If the Lord sees we're trying, he's going to make up the difference.
Right.
But it does cause a very random culture within the church where people will leave the church if they feel like, okay, maybe I messed up and I lost my family and my marriage because of the choices I've made. And so I'm not going back to church because guess what? I'm imperfect and no one's going to want to see me there. And that's why I believe we have so many less active people our age that are single.
Yeah. There was a really good quote by Elder Worthland one time that, and I wish I could find it. I can't find the general conference where he said, I just remember he said something to the effect that every sin represents an attempt to satisfy a legitimate need in an illegitimate way. And I just thought that was fascinating, that the motive, like to be loved or to be cared for or to feel intimacy or to be validated or, there's nothing wrong with any of those motives, but when we try to meet them outside the Lord, the bounds the Lord has set, it backfires on us. We're always it's like heroin. We're always chasing that first high and we're never getting it. Whereas the Lord, what he says is, do it my way. And it may take longer. It's kind of like doing yoga instead of heroin. It may take you a while to where you really get to a place where you can be mindful enough to feel as loved as you would on heroin. But it'll be a natural high and it won't kill you. And I think that slower route, that making those hard, easy choices, they're hard now and easy later, is the path God wants us to take.
Yeah, because, with imperfection or recognizing our imperfection becomes, it's like vulnerability, right?
Right.
You're humble, you're teachable. And if you come before the Lord and, or before your fellow ward members or whatever, pretending like you got everything together, I mean, you're missing moments that you could be learning and others could be learning from you.
Right.
So I think that whole view of perfection is probably one of the biggest blocks we have in the church, honestly.
Well, and it also helps you connect, right? I feel more connected with people when I'm when I'm not worried about what I'm looking like or whatever, or what I'm sounding like or saying like I have, and I remember, that's what I think about imperfectionism, is more of the idea that you have to look good and you have to have it all put together. You have to look like you have it all together before you even go out there and share your message, which would stop you from making that influence, I think. So anyway, that's good.
Yeah.
Guys, this is good.
I mean, and I'm able to do all that and I still feel inadequate.
Yeah. No, that's true. I do too.
And that's the point. I'm supposed to be able to pull that off.
You will. You'll feel inadequate because we're not perfect, right? When depending on who we're comparing to, we're never going to be enough. So you do your best, and you're vulnerable. Anyway.
Yeah, this celestial body can really be a pain sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's part of mortality, right?
Yes. That's right. That is right. Well, I have more to say. I don't care. I don't need to say more. We can ask questions.
Well, I know you're good. We actually kind of got rid of our Q&A section because we shortened our podcast. So yeah, have at. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes. What do you got to share?
Oh, okay. So just the one last thing I thought about is that I mentioned at the beginning I have 3 businesses, and I didn't mention the third one that I did.
Okay.
I do.
Have at it.
And it's called Parent Child Connect, and it's similar to what John is doing. It's parents with challenging children, and that's huge part of my heart. In fact, I would even say much of what I'm doing in the other businesses and all of my life really is coming down to the relationships with our children and how those are really struggling and suffering right now, especially with those that are the children that have parents that are splitting or have split, and they have 2 different families, and they have addiction to electronics and whatever they're dealing with, all of the stuff they're struggling with. Anyway, so with that business, it's just an online course. I'm working with a therapist who specializes in reactive attachment disorder. And so we just help support. It's a support group where his clients come to this group, and we just have the support with them. And then they have weekly therapy sessions and weekly trainings and weekly connecting. And I would do that with any therapist that would want to have that support group. I would just facilitate the support group online. So
that.
That's the third
Awesome.
thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I've got a lot of dynamics in my kids. I don't have the normal just streaming. I've got
anyone does.
adopted, and 2 of them are on the spectrum, and they each have their own personal challenges because of the divorce. And sadly, coming from a divorced family, my mom was actually divorced twice, so I kind of got 2 rounds of that, but I only remember the second one, but it was not a good experience as a child.
No.
And I think they did their best. It just was I don't think neither of my parents recognized the effect it was having on the kids. I would never want to assume they were trying to hurt us, but
on our
it
own
was
pain,
very
right?
hard.
Yeah.
And so seeing my kids, that was my one thing. I'm like, I don't ever want my kids to have to go through that. I will fight tooth and nail. And I did. I fought for like 7 years total. But it's sad. It's sad to see them go through that. And it's good that there's groups out there that people that have those situations can get together and talk. Because honestly, entering into the singles realm, the worst part of it, I think, was feeling lonely, because I was in a ward with a whole bunch of married people. They're nice. They tried to understand, but they didn't. And one of my really big examples of how people kind of float away from you if you're single was, the first Christmas right after I was divorced. I got my whole wall covered in Christmas cards, and everyone was so supportive, and it was just like, yay, I'm here for you. And then this last Christmas, I kid you not, from local friends, I got 3. And so it's just because I'm off the radar now. I don't go to their their group activities or the couple things and stuff. So anyway, I don't know how I got onto that, but I'm just trying to say that sometimes when you feel lonely and you feel like you're all alone in whatever arena you're in, it's great that you can find those support groups to be able to reach out and connect with others. And I love that we have the abilities we have with Zoom and everything nowadays, where you can
Mhm.
across the country to people that have a like mind and a like situation that they're living in. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And next week it's Celeste's turn to be in the
I
hot
know. Gonna be on
Celeste.
Sherry's
What?
show on
On
Sunday.
Not next week,
No,
but
Celeste, while you were talking just now, I almost had to grab my Kleenex,
Oh,
but I held it together.
oh, I
But
should
if
have
there's
kept
a whole
going.
show of you
No.
talking a lot, telling your story, I don't know, man.
The thing is with me is I am an open book, so I can get pretty deep. So watch out, John.
Nice.
If you
Nice.
tune in on Sunday, which I know you would, because why would you not support me?
yes.
I
yeah,
know.
Yeah, totally.
I may not support you in every way, like going to Tennessee, but
Okay. You know what? I am still bitter on that, so we're not talking about that. But because I'm still convinced you're going to show up. You're going to be like, you know what?
I didn't know you were presenting, but
I am. I'm super excited too. So and it's going to be stellar, John. You're going to totally miss out.
I'm
No,
having a
John,
good year
no.
financially, but I don't know if I'm having that good of a
You
year
do. You
to
are.
where I want to.
You are. You are. You just
Yeah.
have to
We
change
discussed
that
this.
self-talk.
Okay, I'll keep entertaining the thought. How's
There we
that? So,
I'm still on the high wire looking down, just saying.
All I know is that anyway, actually, I'm going to give a plug for both of the bashes. There's 2 different bashes coming up. Boise Bash in April. I think it's full. So if you're out, sorry, I think it's going to come back in October. We have the East Coast Bash, which is coming the end of June. And you can look for that. And it's going to be super fun. And then in the far distance is going to be a Nauvoo trip that's coming in September that John is going to be a part of. So just to kind of keep everyone in the loop that there are some activities popping up and it'd be great to have you at any of those. But Sherry, I am so excited you came on and I'm so excited to be on your show on Sunday. So it's going to be a good time. Thank you for sharing all of your
thank you, Sherry.
stories and for
Yeah, thank you.
the just the knowledge you've gained through your experiences. I think sometimes we devalue what we learn and we don't share it as much as we should, because I think people around us that might be coming up the same path as we are can definitely benefit from our knowledge and the experiences we've been through. So thank you for sharing that with us. And with that, we are going to go ahead and stop the show. We are going to thank everybody who's new for coming and hanging out with us. And we'll explain that right after this show, there's something called the after party. And that is where everybody in the audience is able to turn on their mics and their cameras. And we just have kind of like a big chit chat session, just talking about whatever. Sometimes if the guest stays on, we can ask you guys, you can ask extra questions or whatever to them. But we would invite anybody who's watching on Facebook Live just to hop in on the Zoom link and we can add you in. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end the show and start the after party. So
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
If I can stop the recording.